locate. So I've got a very exciting segment coming up. It's going to be Jay596, who currently holds the world record for Pikmin 3. And we have some great commentary from Cap and PiePusher11. Please be patient while we just transition the audio, and they'll be with us momentarily. Thanks again.
Everyone, we're playing Pikmin 3 Deluxe today. Commentators, introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Alex. I am a Pikmin community moderator as well as a huge player of Pikmin 2 and 3.
Yeah.
With me is PiePusher11.
Who is currently muted.
Who is currently muted. That's okay. He is...
Oh, hi. Yes, hi. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm PiePusher11. I also run Pikmin 3, and I'm going to be doing the Pikmin 2 showcase after this.
Alright.
Excellent.
Do any of you guys want to count me down?
Sure, why don't we do that? Okay, run will start in 3, 2, 1, and go.
Galactic date 20XX.
So the Pikmin 3 Deluxe any percent speedrun is pretty cool. So in Pikmin 3 there is a final boss, and so there is an any percent of sorts. And so a lot of the run is going to be centered around basically completing objectives in each area and using a lot of sequence breaks to avoid having to interact with a lot of the collectibles to make sure that you're in areas as quickly as possible. So here, this is a little bit of a tutorial intro with Charlie that we can basically run through because, Jay is obviously a very experienced gamer. In Pikmin 3, several things that might be taken for granted as a viewer become kind of interesting in this case. So here, for example, throwing is very complicated because there's a certain speed that you have to press the A button to throw. So if you press A... Yeah.
Basically, if you mash too quickly, the game will sort of drop your throws, and you won't be throwing quite as fast. There's like a limit to how fast you can throw, basically.
Right, so making sure that everything is being really optimized in terms of the controls and the efficiency in throwing is actually somewhat non-trivial. Here, you're going to have Pikmin build a bridge by kind of repeatedly returning to these parts of these bridge pieces. But here, because leaf Pikmin are very slow, Jay is pushing the Pikmin forward to help complete the bridge faster. This is another section that's actually notoriously hard to optimize. It looks very simple, but efficiently pushing the Pikmin in such a way that, you can get the bridge done as fast as possible is actually not very easy. And so
yeah, these leaf Pikmin are pretty slow, so you can actually just sort of push them around with Alf here to help speed them up a little bit. And that's really the name of the game here in any percent is really about these small optimizations that really add up over the course of the run,
Yeah. So another example is here, like Jay was able to, So like, there's still 2 living female shear rubs that he's going to have to kill, which is going to be a little complicated, but ultimately it should be manageable. Day 1 in a lot of the Pikmin games are kind of simple tutorials, but in Pikmin 3 there's actually a decent amount of complication to them. Like, for example, this one shear rub is just not behaving, which, is frustrating, but it's these things that, can break down a lot. So
This could be an interesting trick coming up right here called seed manips. So we're gonna let this one pellet come in a little bit later, and if it's timed just right, you can actually have the onion spit out the seeds, some of the seeds of the 5 pellet a little earlier. That's just due to how you stagger the pellets going into the onion. Help save a little bit of time, get some of those seeds out of there a little quicker. And that's pretty much it for day 1. Once we make our way through this cave and break down this wall here.
So one small thing that is interesting is normally as you explore the terrain, you can get these prompts of sorts. You can get these little prompts where, you know, like the captain will remark on something, and when that happens, you stop. Like your movement stops for a beat. And so you move kind of to avoid those prompts, you know, and it's one of those things where you don't see what you're not, you know, you don't see the fact that these prompts aren't going to there. But if you were to play it casually, you would stop more while walking around because you would notice, you know, like different dialogue options throughout the game. But Jay is basically making sure to get rid of obstacles and to walk certain paths to avoid that. But yes, with the end of day, this day 1 has concluded.
Yeah, there's a lot of little things that you wouldn't really notice as a viewer, but as a runner you really have to pay attention to like that, because it can really cost you time. So once we land here on day 2, there's going to be a lot going on really quickly. There's a lot of multitasking going on. We've got to build a bridge to move on to the next area. We've got to break down a gate to get to some more of the bridge pieces. All the while, we're going to be growing Pikmin. We're also going to be throwing Pikmin across the river here to start working on a gate across the river a little quicker.
Yeah, starting here, you definitely see a little bit more of the multitasking that we like to see in Pikmin. So, you know, gates, you know, these dirt gates that you see here are usually big stoppages. So note that the first thing that we basically do is get working on those gates. Even the far one that casually you wouldn't really interact with until later. We're actually going out of our way to basically throw across and kind of walk unconventionally towards it, basically to ensure that we have that process loaded early.
Yeah, because otherwise, once we get to that point, we just gotta, you know, set all our Pikmin on and just kind of wait around for a while.
Right. So
it's,
this is some, well, yeah. So it just enhances the multitasking, and then the Pikmin that we throw early on this bridge make this go down quicker. And here we have access to Nectar. Nectar is a pretty big mechanic in all of the Pikmin games, really, because simply put, of course, Nectar is what makes your Pikmin carry things faster, and in a speedrun, the speed at which your Pikmin carry things is, of course, very important to optimizing efficiency in these cases, so that's why they're good.
Right, so each drop of nectar there can, 10 Pikmin can drink it and become flowered, and in Pikmin 3, once a Pikmin is flowered, they're going to be flowered for the rest of the game. There's no way that you can lose your flower and go back down to being a leaf in this game. So in here, we're going to be meeting our second type of Pikmin, the rock Pikmin. And they're going to be really useful throughout the run for breaking these crystals, crystal walls, things like that. And so we're going to harvest this enemy corpse and grow up to 14 rocks, and that'll hold us off for a while. That's all the growing of rock Pikmin we're going to need to do for a while.
Yeah, rock Pikmin definitely are very useful. Compared to like other strong Pikmin types in previous games, it's kind of cool because they have their own puzzle capabilities. So you see these kind of crystal walls and crystal structures, and those can only really be handled with rock Pikmin. So it's kind of nice that they have, you know, their own puzzle necessities. What you saw Jay do there is a little bit of, again, optimization. As while the thing was coming down, you normally have to throw a whole bunch of Pikmin up there with Brittany, the second captain that you've discovered. But Jay was able to throw the 5 Pikmin up there in advance. So it basically saves time throwing later. Is the moment you throw Brittany up there, she's like, "Oh yeah, you just threw a whole bunch of Pikmin up here, great." And you're supposed to get a fruit, but here, you know, nominally in Pikmin 3, you can extend your day count by continuing to get fruits, but, you know, in the any percent speedrun, we only really care about how quickly you can get to the final boss. So we only get the fruits in this route that you really need to continue. So you may have noticed that we...
So, our Pikmin here are actually... you're not supposed to let your Pikmin swim like this, but in normal difficulty, which is what we're playing on here, it does take a very long time for them to actually drown, so we can actually get them all the way across the water there, and that's quicker than throwing them each individually.
And what you're doing by doing this drown strat is you're actually basically skipping a bridge being built. So there's normally a bridge that you would have to build, but actually, because we've skipped that bridge, eventually we will need to build that bridge to get the...
If you notice, Jay actually already set a couple of Pikmin on it, so they're working on building that bridge in the background while we go on to fight our first boss here, the Armored Maudad. And this boss is covered with the crystal armor, so we're gonna break off just that little piece on his tail, and we should be able to do all the damage we need to just to his tail. This boss cannot be killed while he's on the wall, so we're going to chip his armor, get him moving a little quicker, and as soon as he gets all the way off, we're going to charge the reds on him, and that should be it. So, a little trouble there, but there we go.
Yeah, the Maudad can be very frustrating. In like world record and PB attempts, there's a certain element of RNG in terms of the Maudad pattern, and so it's definitely can be a frustrating part in the relatively earlier stages of the run.
Right, so
weird pattern he gave there.
So the main goal in day 2 here was to collect that phone from the Armored Maudad, so once we get that moving, we just kind of wait for it to come in, and in the downtime we're going to be growing as many Pikmin as we can, and getting as many of them flowered as possible. Ideally, everyone will be flowered by the end of the day, by the time the phone comes in. But once that phone comes in, we'll be ready to move on to day 3. And day 3 is a really interesting day in any percent. There's a ton of sequence breaks and skips going on. It's probably the most broken day, maybe? Would you,
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, basically there's... Well, compared to... You know, similar to other games, I mean, it's pretty rare, but you are somehow basically able to skip getting an entire color. Which is, I think, the largest sequence break element about it. You know, because normally there's a whole bunch of things that you can accomplish, but because you walk so far out of bounds, you ignore a whole series of puzzles that you have to solve. And on top of that, we basically eliminate the need for getting... You basically get rid of the need for getting an entire Pikmin type, which is really wild. And it also...
so the game does actually give you 5 wild yellow Pikmin at the beginning of this day, and we are going to need them for the boss fight. But besides that, we're not going to be using yellow Pikmin in this entire run. So the first thing that's gonna happen on day 3 is Brittany is going to land in this cave with the yellow Pikmin, and we are going to do some out of bounds walking to escape the cave without unlocking yellow Pikmin.
Yep. So how this basically works is that the edges of the walls in Pikmin 3 are somewhat malleable, which means if you have enough momentum, climbing walls in Pikmin 3 is much easier than it is in a lot of other games. And so you see here that Jay's basically able to scale the wall, and now he's effectively out of bounds. And yeah.
Jay made it look really easy, but one false step and you're falling all the way back down. This is actually a pretty big
Yeah.
reset point in runs here. This
Right.
is a full out of bounds section.
And again, it's so smooth because Jay is finding the right edge, but you just saw him again. He basically walked up that wall like it was the floor because they're actually coded very similarly. So with enough momentum, he's basically able to now kind of traverse this out of bounds area. He's walking in a specific path so he doesn't clip back in.
Yeah, there are some invisible walls that if you get too close to the intended gameplay area, you'll be stuck and won't be able to go back as far out of bounds as he is right now. And once we pass through this stream here, we're actually going to fall out of bounds and respawn right up by the entrance to the boss area. So once we take out these Pikmin, we're going to long whistle them into the arena because any Pikmin that are in your party when you go through a loading zone will come with you, no matter how far away they actually are. So he's calling the yellows from way back there, as well as the reds and rocks from the landing site, and perfect, we got everyone.
And the reason why this works here especially is because you don't need to, unlike, in any percent, you actually will never return to this area. The only thing that you basically need from this area for any percent is the third captain, Charlie, who's inside of this boss. So once you do this, you can basically end the day and basically move on. And so it doesn't really matter how many of the puzzles that you skip because you'll never really return here. So Jade now ends the day, and despite having done very little in terms of what the game recognizes, we were able to beat the boss and get Charlie, which is what allows us to advance.
Right, so now that we have that, we're moving on to day 4. And day 4 is another pretty quick day. There's another skip that we can do to get straight up to the boss pretty quickly.
Yes,
you're going to see that's kind of a pattern in this game.
Right. I mean, which makes sense. I mean, it's a very sequence break heavy game, so we're clipping through, and a lot of these Pikmin games, they're based around puzzles, right, to get to restricted areas. And so every single clip that we can do to access a restricted area early results in huge time save.
Don't know what happened there. It didn't let me go up Pikmin for a second.
Yeah, that was a little bizarre. One of those reds drowns, but Pikmin counts in this game are actually somewhat, fungible. So, like, one red dying is actually acceptable if it's what it takes to continue moving. Obviously, you want to minimize Pikmin deaths. I mean, but it's one of those things that's that isn't the end of the world. So yeah, another Pikmin kind of just got grabbed there, and it's unfortunate, but it's not actually that damaging in terms of the overall run viability. And if it's faster to let a Pikmin or two die, then unfortunately we are in the business of speed.
As I always like to say, if it saves time, let them die.
Yep, exactly.
Right, so now we're moving on to the Sand Belching Mirror Slug, and this fight is Pretty straightforward. He's gonna bury underground and sort of try to suck your Pikmin in, and we're gonna let him, and we're just gonna attack him. We have so many Pikmin that a couple of them did fall in his mouth, but we've hit him so many times that he pops up before he has a chance to actually swallow them. And now we're gonna throw some Pikmin on this dirt mound, and they're gonna be digging up some bomb rocks, which we'll be using in the third phase. In the third phase here, we're actually just gonna make blow up these bomb rocks right next to him. He could eat them, but it's a little bit faster if they blow up. Right next to him.
Regarding the first thing to build on what Pi says, one of the nice things about the Pikmin series, generally speaking, is that even if Pikmin are in the process of getting eaten, a lot of the time, if you can kill the enemy or over damage the enemy before the Pikmin are actually like swallowed, then they actually live. You know, and so that's one way of, even though those attacks that he was doing are dangerous, as long as we keep the damage output really high, we actually lost no Pikmin during that fight. Which is...
Yeah, and that's especially true in Pikmin 3, because like these big bulbwurbs like this, you can actually hit them in their eye and stun them, which will also free Pikmin from their mouth, even if they were about to be swallowed.
Yeah. So, you are growing a little bit more rocks here, so we do take that whip tongue bulborb. That is who we just killed. And we're actually going to grow more rocks with it. There are several techniques to avoid this losing a lot of time. So one technique is that you can absorb the whip tongue bulborb right as the day ends, but Jay, because he's very, very, very fast, is able to actually collect it really fast and have the other captains pluck all of the rocks before the cell phone gets in. And those are equivalent in time, provided that you can pluck all of the rocks before the cell phone gets in, which he does in this case.
Right, and you'll notice we also got a fruit there. Cap was saying earlier that we don't really care about fruits, we're just trying to get to the end of the game, but we do need a couple, because if we get no fruits throughout the entire game, we would only have 4 days, and we would have gotten the game over by the end of this day. So we do need a couple, but we're only going to need one more fruit that we're going to get on day 5.
Yeah, we're going to get that tomorrow. Tomorrow, of course, in-game. Not, obviously, on a separate day of this marathon. But yeah, we get it on day 5. For sure. So day 5 is considered to be one of the trickier, probably the trickiest, the kind of run-defining day, because there have been clips all throughout this run, but the clips in day 5 are notoriously very finicky. And there are elements that are very cycle-dependent, and so it is a day that a lot of time can be saved or lost depending on the execution of these clips. So the first clip is right here. You know, we want to get to the winged onions. We can get to winged Pikmin. And that captain clip is very finicky, but Jay executes it excellently. And gets it, you know, in just a matter of seconds. So that's very excellent.
Right, so we also have to worry about, while we're growing up our wing Pikmin numbers here, which we just unlocked, we also have to worry about the cycles of the lily pads in the river. These lily pads are floating down the river, and we have to, ideally be on the right cycle, unless, you know, we'd lose time otherwise.
Yeah, so the good news is you can basically try to multitask. So, for example, Jay was able to make sure that wings were being plucked while Alf and Charlie were basically getting on that lily pad, and they're going to be traveling down that lily pad basically during this next growth sequence. Here, Jay is loading up wings onto this barrier that's going to unlock the lily pads on this side. He's throwing Pikmin early because while you need 10, if you throw 7 Pikmin early, it actually causes this cutscene to play faster. Now, having grown all the all the wings that we're going to need, we're actually going to be digging up a fruit and nectaring our winged Pikmin while we wait.
Right, so
At
this
this-
lily pad that Brittany is going on is the way on to the back area, which is where our boss is.
Right.
And meanwhile, Alf and Charlie here are going to be collecting some bomb rocks and getting rid of this enemy in the way here.
We get rid of this wall, which is pretty fast, using 3 of the 4 bomb rocks, and there's this entrance point here, and so from this, we've now kind of recoalesced our entire squad. So by using out of bounds and by multitasking here, we've been able to kind of grow wings, get bombs, and then recombine the squad as we enter the next zone. We throw some Pikmin on there for Ultra Spicy Spray. Ultra Spicy Spray flowers up Pikmin and kind of turbocharges them, so to speak, and we don't use
it
it on
like powers them up for about 40 seconds, and
Yeah.
it's really great for using on boss fights. We don't get a ton of them in any percent here. We only have enough time to get 2 sprays.
Jay probably is only gonna have enough time to get 1. The good news is, for in general in the any percent runs that Jay does, you use that 1 for the Plasm Wraith, the final boss. On normal, the boss health is low enough that you can kind of tolerate using, not using sprays for the other bosses. But for the Plasm Wraith, the final boss, he's enough of a beast that you basically want all of the tools that the game gives you at your disposal. And, having, 7 reds absent from this fight doesn't really affect the speed as much. So, logically, aside from the time that it takes for the 2 cutscenes of the Spicy Spray to play, are well worth the time save that you get from using them in Plasm Wraith. Cornet Meister here casually can be a very hard enemy, but it turns out that a fun little exploit to kind of make him less scary is his attacks will follow whatever active captain you are at the beginning of his attack. So you can just leave one captain over to bait him, and then once he starts the attack, you can switch to the other captain with all your Pikmin, and he'll still target the captain you were originally. So he was doing all of these attacks, but you basically were able to ignore it because he's
targeting the other captain, right?
Exactly.
So now we're coming up on one of the most notorious tricks in the run, Louis Clip. Normally we're supposed to have built this bridge, and your Pikmin can just carry Louis across the bridge, but the bridge isn't here, and there's an invisible wall that we have to sort of clip Louis through, and it's really tricky, huge run ender.
Yeah. So yeah, basically Louis does not want to get over this wall. And so Jay basically needs to just continue doing this until it clips. This is a
little bit of trouble with it.
This is famously tricky. So it's it definitely is gonna take a second. Luckily Louis will eventually break through. But it's possible to get this, like, basically instantly, if you have the correct position.
Yeah, definitely the most notorious trick in any percent here.
Yep. Louis is just not behaving. Oh!
There we go.
No, hold on. There. Okay, there it is. Alright. Yeah, Louis was being a little bit frustrating that run, but that certainly is not uncommon to sometimes see him not cooperate.
Alright, hopefully we should be smooth sailing for the rest of the run here.
Yeah, no clip is as hard as Louis clip, so moving forward we should be in a good position.
All my homies hate Louis.
For real. No, that was so but that is a hard clip. You know, so in a way although you never want to see struggling during a marathon, sometimes it's good because it shows how tricky some of these things really are. And so it just showcases that Louis can be very brutal.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes that just happens.
Yeah.
Just gotta move on. So next, on day 6, we're going to meet the final Pikmin type, the blue Pikmin, and we are going to... we're not going to use them all that much. I don't think there's anything that we specifically need blues for, but we do grow a couple of them,
Yeah.
just for fun.
We grow. I think we literally grow one blue. So the blues need to be unlocked in order for you to progress to the. In order for you to progress to the area, to the boss area, you need to unlock blues. But if it wasn't for that, for any percent, there is no water dependent thing that we actually use them for. So we have to we have to unlock one at least. But
Right, you're
aside from that-
supposed to need a whole bunch of blues to build a bridge that has shards that are all underwater, stuff like that. But we don't need to worry about that in the speedrun.
No. You'll see right here. So also, you'll notice there was a little bit of bizarre menuing that Jay had to do there. That actually is a consequence of the fact that we never unlocked yellow Pikmin. But the game, like, logically, we should have had yellow Pikmin at this point. And so you have to do, it. You know, it's not terribly complicated, but you have to do some bizarre menuing to get all of the Pikmin out without, like, weirdly creating Pikmin.
A little trouble with that clip, but eventually gets it. There we go.
So Brittany is being sent back, or not Brittany. The other captain, I think might have been Charlie, is being sent back to. No, it was Alf. That's my bad. It was or no, it was Charlie. So he got sent back to pluck the blue, and the moment that he plucked the blue, then Jay was able to enter this area.
There was an invisible wall blocking your way to this boss fight that you need the blue Pikmin for. So Meyerklops is first we're gonna attack his feet here and use rocks to break this crystal. Then there's a second phase which is gonna be similar. He's gonna swipe his tongue at us, and we're gonna throw reds at it. And there is a tricky thing with damage caps here. We don't want to do too much damage too quickly, but if we can surpass that damage cap, now we can kill him all in one cycle.
Excellent boss fight.
Normally it's supposed to take 3 cycles, but that was an excellent boss fight.
Yep. So yeah, so one of the big things is that you're basically almost supposed to not meter out your damage, because if you just try to attack it without much thought, then you basically start to trigger, you know, this shake sequence that will basically prevent you from doing the one cycle. But if you take your time, paradoxically, it prevents one of the pieces got nabbed by the Aristocrat, which is unfortunate. But otherwise, yeah, without that, he basically doesn't shake any of the Pikmin off, which allows you to actually do more damage to him in the long run.
Yeah, that was an excellent day 6, and once Louis comes back, we are pretty much set to go on to the final day of our run here.
Yes. So
Yeah.
with reacquiring Louis, we have to collect him twice. We collected him on day 5, and now we've recollected him. And so now, with that, we can finally have the wherewithal to find Olimar. And then once we save Olimar from the Plasm Wraith, that is when the time ends.
Right, so day 7 is sort of split into 2 parts. The first part is kind of like an escort mission. We have an unconscious Olimar that we have to carry out of the cave, while the Plasm Wraith is constantly chasing us. And once we get out of the cave, we are... we have to fight the Plasm Wraith.
For sure.
So it's really different. This sort of escort mission is really unique in the Pikmin series. I don't think there's anything else quite like that.
Yeah, no, it's cool how they kind of were able to implement escort missions into this, because normally in the more traditional Pikmin games of the past, it's like kind of hard to imagine, but it makes sense because you have Pikmin, and Pikmin's big thing is you're carrying objects and you're managing things, and so it makes sense that it's a game that's well designed for an escort mission type behavior in the first place.
Right, so normally when you pick something up, the Pikmin have a set path that they take back to the onion, or if it's a bridge shard, like they have a set path to that bridge. But in this part, when they pick up Olimar, they don't know exactly where to go, so they just follow Brittany specifically.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is, using our Pikmin to carry Olimar through here. Grounded Pikmin carry a little faster, but winged Pikmin can be used to, go across gaps and up walls,
Right.
which we'll see, because why couldn't you go out of bounds? We've been doing it the rest of the game.
Right. So, you actually need exactly 10. Yeah, as long as you have 10 wings, you can continue. So, one big thing here is the reason why wings are so good is they can carry over gaps, but wings basically, even when you're out of bounds, the game in terms of Pikmin following you don't really recognize that. Like, they will try to follow you out of bounds. Of course,
Right, they just see that, oh, the captain's right here, I'm going to go to them.
Right. So, most Pikmin, however, it doesn't really matter, because being out of bounds does not really help them at all. Because they cannot climb the walls the way that we can. But winged Pikmin, well, they can go over walls and, sides of the arena. So because they can fly, it basically enables us to basically have the Pikmin carry stuff out of bounds alongside us, which is nice. And that's
Right,
what
so
we're
as you see, Jay brought some red Pikmin in here. We're gonna just walk up this route. The wing Pikmin are going to carry Olimar up out of bounds to us, and we are going to switch over to the reds because grounded Pikmin carry slightly faster than the wing Pikmin. And while we're waiting for Olimar to catch up, we are just going to switch over back to Alf real quick and pick up some bomb rocks that we'll use in the fight. Now, this fight is coming up pretty quick, and this fight's gonna go real fast. So there's a lot going on. We're gonna pop that spicy spray that we got earlier right away. We're going to throw all 4 of these bombs we just got, and we're just gonna charge everyone at him. And ideally, this rushdown strat will make the Plasm Wraith go down right away. If things go wrong, the Plasm Wraith could heal a lot of health back, and this fight could take quite a bit longer. So let's hope that this goes well.
Jay did something, speaking of going wrong, there was a nice little contingency that he did though. So you saw that as he approached the ring, he actually threw a Pikmin into the blue Candy Pop Bud. That was so that if the blue here dies, an extinction isn't created. Jay also wanted to say, even in this marathon run, he is doing somewhat of an advanced technique called the 4-bomb technique. So you could do this with more bombs. But Jay is opting to save time by doing them with less bombs. But it means he has to have a lot more wherewithal to avoid, to avoid more chaos. But, and some Pikmin are obviously going to be running into these hazards, but he's able to basically rush them down.
Yeah, but since it's like right at the end of the game, we don't really care too much about Pikmin deaths as long as Plasma Wraith goes down too.
And it does.
There we have it.
And that's time, yeah. Excellent. Great job. Sub 39. Incredible.
I'd say the only
Especially with the day 5.
that went pretty good.
Yeah, that went pretty good. The only thing that was silly about it was the Louis clip, but I think everything else was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fantastic run.
But yes, if you want to see Pikmin 3 played at the highest of levels, you should give Jay596 a follow. He's the homie for sure.
And I don't just play Pikmin